So welcome to our really first session, first Q&A session of the incubation program. And I'd like to introduce you to Matthijs van der Laar.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for coming all the way. This is an interactive session, so if you have a question, please stand up.
Shout it out.
Shout it out, and then I'll repeat your question, and then Matthijs will answer it for you.
Absolutely. Yes.
So you're here.
I'm here.
Because you're going to tell us a little bit about your Kickstarter. Could
Yes.
you introduce your company and yourself a little bit?
Yeah, I'm from Twirlbound. We're based in the Dutch Game Garden in Breda. And we're making Pine. You can see it on the screen here. It's an action-adventure game, a little Zelda-esque, Fable-esque. Like almost a year ago, we decided we wanted to go to Kickstarter and start our company funding with something as crazy as crowdfunding. And here we are, I think 9 months later, and we made 121,000 euros. So now we can at least keep going for this year. So,
Well
yeah,
done.
thank you. Yeah.
So you've done a successful Kickstarter.
Yes.
That must have been a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. That's usually what people stress first if they talk about Kickstarters. I think we started around August 2016. The plan was to release the Kickstarter in December, but that was never going to work. So we decided to keep on developing and work on the trailer and launch around March. And in the end, it came out on my birthday, March 9. It was a great birthday. And from the, yeah, it really wasn't. I got really sick in the evening. Like everything came out and was like, yeah, congrats, yeah, thanks. It's a lovely birthday. But yeah, that's just how it went. I mean, there's all these things you got to keep into mind, like what day of the week do you launch, when in the month do you launch, when does the campaign end, etc. And my birthday was apparently the best day. So, but yeah, months and months of work. Yeah.
So why did you decide to do a Kickstarter and not find an investor or, I don't know, find a grant funding somewhere else?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, with Pine, the idea was Pine started as a graduation project, and our idea was to finish something in that graduation phase that we could take to investors and publishers. And that worked. We went to a conference as sort of our deadline, and a few publishers approached us, and that process kept going of publishers just finding us through Twitter and through anywhere really, like Facebook or Reddit or email or conferences. They just said, hey, we like Pine, can we talk for a bit? But for us, that choice was so important that we needed some time to get the right choice. And we realized as well that with all these publishers, some of them we sat around the table, we had Skype calls, we discussed actual money, etc. But the process was still very long, like, shall we meet in 2 weeks? And that, it dragged on and dragged on. So it was sort of a race against the clock because we needed money at some point, of course. And then we thought we can grab the first publisher who wants us and has some money, but let's give this a good thought and find some money elsewhere. So we needed to find some money to get to the Kickstarter. So we applied to the Stimuleringsfonds, which is not there anymore, unfortunately. It has a new name, etc. It's the Media Funds now. And with that money, it was just a little bit, but with the money we could go to the Kickstarter. And in March we launched to, buy ourselves some time, basically. And now the talks with publishers continue, but it's a lot calmer, it's a lot nicer, right? You have something to negotiate yourself as well. You did your own investment, so it's an easier position to be in.
So can you give me an estimate of how long it took for these publishers to figure out whether or not they were willing to invest or to strike a deal with you?
I guess the first publishers came to us in June. More of them in around September, October, when we had some, a bigger demo to show and to send to streamers. And then September still now, I guess, we're talking to them constantly and keeping them up to date. I mean, they require some things like a vertical slice and a game design document, etc., that we take our sweet time for. Like if it was really a necessary evil that we really needed to go to a publisher, I would finish those things sooner. Now we have the freedom, to take our time on it. But I guess, it can be like half a year from the moment you start talking to a publisher until you've signed a contract with a good deal and everything. But it's hard to say because we didn't have the rush in that anymore. So I couldn't give you an exact time estimate, but yeah, that's roughly what we're looking at, I think.
That's pretty tough. That's
Yeah.
like a half year without any money.
Yeah. Well, for us, the graduation phase, that was in school, that was fine. And after that was taking a risk. We knew that. We were going to take the deep dive and see how far we could get. To be honest, we said around October, we're going to have to say yes or no, let's do this, or let's do something else first, let's go work somewhere. But we kept getting opportunities to keep Pine going. One of them was the Unity Awards. We won a Unity Award in Los Angeles. It was like all these, thank you. It was all these motivations and opportunities that we got to keep Pine going. And we thought we really have something in our hands here. But we really didn't want to do it part-time. That would take 7 years to finish Pine part-time and keep the motivation for 7 years. So we thought either do it full-time or we don't do it. And the opportunities kept coming. Then we got the Simuleringsfonds, which was just that little extra step we needed to get to the Kickstarter. And if all went well after the Kickstarter, we could go freely for almost a year. So that was the plan. It worked.
So you started with the Kickstarter 3 months in advance?
Officially, yes. But what we did in October, we went to the Square Enix Collective, which is a platform where you can sort of test your crowdfunding campaign with actual gamers, the Square Enix, fan base basically, and they can. And
those fit your targeted audiences as well, or?
Sort of, yes. Like action adventure gamers, they like Final Fantasy, they like Zelda probably. It's not Square Enix, but it's up there. So we thought let's test the waters with that crowdfunding campaign. Write the whole page, write the whole crowdfunding campaign without people actually having to put in money into that. They can give you feedback and they can say, I would back this on Kickstarter, or I would support this project. That was not as useful as we hoped. We thought, Square Enix, big reach, this will blow up. Maybe Square Enix wants us. Square Enix does want Pine, but they have the collective as sort of a very separate branch, and it doesn't have the reach of the normal Square Enix, if you can put it that way. But what it did do for us is that we finished the crowdfunding page almost 8 months before we were launching. Well, at that point it was 4 months before we wanted to launch. But that was really important that we had a page that early into the process, and we could iterate on that for months and months on end. So we kept testing with people, like every sentence, if it worked well, and the graphics, if that worked well, and the structure of the page and what people wanted to know extra or what people didn't want to know or what was useful and useless information.
So instead of a big reach, you got a lot of feedback, and you also had a really strong deadline
to
finish something really crucial to your campaign.
Yeah, exactly. So the deadline after the collective was, getting to Kickstarter, but for that we needed a trailer, and that was the big thing that still wasn't in there in the Square Enix Collective. We had a sort of a temporary trailer. We ended up being the highest rated project on the Square Enix Collective. That worked well, but we got roughly 700 votes, yes or no. And that's not a lot for such a big publisher. But in the end, it was kind of nice because then we could go stealth mode sort of into that real Kickstarter, which happened in the end. But I guess you could say the preparation started 7-8 months before launching the actual page, yeah. And a lot of that work was in the trailer, yeah.
In the trailer?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to show us a little bit of that trailer later, right?
Yes.
You talk a lot about making iterations and making decisions.
Yes.
How does that work? Could you walk us through this program?
It's sort of our mantra at the studio as well. We say iterating is easier than creating. Putting something on paper and showing it is always the hardest step. And after that, it's easier to just keep on changing things based on the feedback you get. And we do this in everything. So with the trailer, we built that completely iteratively, right? We had a plan, and for 15 weeks, we made a version of the trailer every week. Just based on what we saw ourselves and what our friends saw, etc., we just kept on changing things. And the same went for the page. We wrote the page, and then for months, we just tested it with people. We sent it to people, to linguistic people, is this all sound and safe, and can we launch this? So for everything we do, and also in the game, the first thing we want to do is get a block out, get a prototype, get a concept out there as fast as possible, and then keep on iterating. And it's kind of dangerous because sometimes if you're doing marketing or if you're on Twitter and you want to share a GIF, it's the very first version, and you can get a lot of bad comments on it. But it's easier to iterate on that than to create something and polish that until it's finally ready to show on Twitter, because it still might be broken if you don't test it. So, yeah, everything it's about that testing.
Did it also apply to your decision to choose Kickstarter over other platforms?
No, that was more of a marketing decision. What we've seen at conferences is when people come by Pine, they recognize it as a game. Whoever they are, it's a very, I mean, it's the broadest market segmentation there is. It's the action-adventure genre, right? So the Tomb Raider, Uncharted, they sell a lot of copies. So it's also a dangerous market to be in, but we've noticed that as an indie, you can stand out pretty easily with a 3D action-adventure game. So what we wanted to do is get, sort of the marketing strategy from the start is getting that broad audience. So not only the gamers, but also the parents and the children who really don't care about game news or whatever, but can see it in the shops, in the shelves, and say, okay, I'll buy that. And Kickstarter has 65 million users a month. Over Indiegogo, second place is like 20 million users. There's also Fig, a game-specific crowdfunding thing. We also talked to them with doing Pine, but they have a reach of about 100,000 users. So we thought, no, let's keep to that marketing strategy of getting the broadest segment out there and go to Kickstarter. And there's millions of users, and in the end, 70% of backers came through Kickstarter that we haven't reached through Twitter or Facebook, but just who came by, saw it in the shelf, and backed our game. So that worked well. Yeah.
Are there any questions from the audience already? Dan?
So how much money did you get from the media funds?
That was 20,000 euros. And it was just enough to get us some salary, like 780 a month, I think it was, for 3 months, which is not a lot, but we were running out of money, so anything helps. And getting the office costs, which are pretty low in Dutch Game Garden, so it wasn't too much to worry about. But just enough to stretch December to February, roughly. And then was just 1 more month of having nothing, and then the Kickstarter came, so yeah.
So like, at what time did you feel confident enough to actually start your Kickstarter campaign? Like, how many Twitter followers did you have?
All right, yeah. We did have
The question is, when were you confident enough to start a Kickstarter, right?
Yeah, so in terms of social media and marketing reach, we set some very minor goals. We wanted 750 followers on Twitter. We wanted 1,000 likes on Facebook, which is not a lot, but seeing the growth at the start is most important. And we almost reached all of those goals, but it was also sort of necessity that the Kickstarter would launch in March. If it would have been April, we really would have been broke. Like, it was really now or never. So that deadline was pretty harsh, but the marketing goals were almost all met, roughly. We had like 1,700 followers and 990 likes, so we thought, okay, let's go for it. And there was the email list. There's this campaign that came out last year. They said we won't launch the Kickstarter until we get 5,000 subscribers on our email list. Very smart move if you have the time to do that. We had roughly 3,500 people on our mailing list that came out of demos and marketing of the previous year. But that wasn't really a goal for us because the email list has a pretty bad conversion rate, like 10% even reads the email, So that wasn't really the biggest one, but yeah, also up there. Mailing list, Facebook, Twitter, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a small follow-up question. How long did it take for you to get like that much people to mail and reach?
So the question is, how did you create the first starting audience?
Yeah, I guess that's a very long process. We founded the company in 2013 already in school. And that's also when we set up the Twitter and the Facebook feed, of course. First we did a mobile game, so completely different target audience, so we needed to check if this was still the same people who would be interested in Pine. I guess it took like 3 years, but with minimal effort, right? So what we did is in October, when the Square Enix Collective launched, we decided to do a weekly development blog, and that would be our main thing to share on these social feeds. And I think we were at development blog number 18 or 19 when we launched the Kickstarter. So we did 19 weeks of weekly updates to people through Indie database, through Twitter, through Facebook. I guess 20 weeks would be a good start to say when we consciously wanted to build up that audience. But we were roughly at like 400 followers or maybe 500 and like 400 likes. So it was, you know, we still had a long way to go, but we had some base that I don't really know how long it took to get. So,
Good.
yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I was wondering how much of the game needs to be finished, so where you can show on.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like 90% needs to be done, so you can showcase a good trailer and anything.
So the question is, how much
Yeah.
do you need to finish for the game?
Yeah.
To put it on Kickstarter.
That's one of the sort of myths around Kickstarter. A lot of people, a lot of articles will say you need to have a demo before you go to Kickstarter, or else you will fail. And one of our strategy points was let's not have a demo. We wanted to specifically try this with the concept of Pine because we didn't have enough yet. And if we would have slammed together some demo, it would have only ruined the image of the game that we had ourselves. So we needed to motivate people for the vision of the game and not for what was there yet. Because, you know, we have all these prototypes, but they're not nearly to a level where you can share them with anyone. Sharing a demo is very, very dangerous on Kickstarter. Especially if you launch a demo within the Kickstarter, a lot of people can just play and retract their pledge, and that happens a lot. So some companies do the demo, they release it one day after the campaign so that nobody can retract anymore, but still promise that demo. We are promising a demo for, you know, almost the end of 2017. So we said, you know, you can all play a demo if you want for a certain pledge, but it's not now, it's not up to that standard, but here's our vision of the game. So our game is not, I mean, the release date is scheduled for November 2018. So that was also our biggest risk. Like, what if this is too long for people to invest in? In the end, it apparently wasn't, but it's not very far along. We don't have a beta or an alpha, or, you know, the vertical slice is even, I think, 50% done at this point. So it's not very far along as long as you can get that vision on the page and motivate people to back that vision, I guess.
So what did you show in the trailer?
The trailer,
What did
yeah.
you show in the trailer?
The trailer, the trailer was most important to get that vision across, and we wanted to show that it's an action-adventure game, focus a lot on that adventure part, and our game is all about species and about these creatures in the world. They do more than just, you know, they're not just cannon fodder. You can actually interact with them in a lot of ways. You can work together with them, you can befriend them, and that was sort of our core vision for that trailer. We did get a lot of comments that the trailer did not show enough of the other gameplay elements, such as combat. We didn't have that to a level where we were comfortable enough to show it. So we decided to keep that on a very low level and focus on those interactions. I guess there's always different things I would have done in the trailer right now, but apparently it was just enough to get people motivated for that world with these creatures instead of, you know, very specific mechanics that you also put in the page.
Last question.
Previously, you talked about the marketing goals,
Mm-hmm.
but how do you define them?
Right.
So the question is, how do you define marketing goals?
How do you define the marketing goals? I kind of looked at the growth over the time that we started Pine with and checked what we could reach. I mean, they have to be realistic. Obviously, I could have said I want 10,000 followers, but I would have never made that. So I looked at, you know, how many interactions do we get per tweet, and how sort of how involved are our followers actually, and what would be roughly enough. And then I combined that with what can we actually get. So let's say I would have said, you know, I want 3,000 followers, which will be a real stretch. I need to really focus on Twitter if I want to do that. But the conversion rate is not that much, so is it worth putting all that effort in? So I extrapolated sort of the activity on our Twitter feed. It came roughly 1,750 followers. That was a nice number. Given their involvement, which is not that high on Twitter, the conversion rate is not that good. It's just visibility everywhere. For organic growth is pretty nice. So it's sort of in the middle, like what can we do and how useful is it? And somewhere in between, we just set some goals.
You sent me some interesting approaches for your some lessons learned in the small bullet points, and you talk about some marketing efforts that were more beneficial than you anticipated.
Yes.
I'm really interested in hearing a bit about that. Sometimes
I made sure for Kickstarter that for every day we had something to talk about, something to share or something to do. At the start it was pretty hard. I could do it for the first week and then I thought, I don't know what will happen next.
So what is...
What that would be, like news items or share a GIF on Twitter, you know, always have a GIF ready for some gameplay things or have some news, like you say. But then the first days, they went pretty well, so we could share the news of how well it was going. Everyone does that, like, hey, you know, 48 hours, 30% there, it's the easy ones. And after that, I was wondering, you know, what can I do next? But during that month, I just kept on everything I could think of that would get us even $1 would be enough for me to put some effort in it. And one of them was Imgur. You know Imgur, you know, the image platform. It's sort of like 9gag, but it's more related to Reddit, I guess, that corner of the universe. I've been strolling through Imgur a lot in my life, just, you know, lurking, as they call it, just checking things out. I've never posted on that before, but I thought, you know, let's post. People can see that I've been a member for years, and let's post something about this journey we're having. And I know Imgur, and I know they like sob stories, and I know they like, you know, beautiful coming-of-age stories of a company, for example. So I checked some examples, and I wrote a post about how 6 graduates, you know, went onto Kickstarter after half a year of just building demos, etc. Put some cool GIFs in there, and I thought, you know, maybe we get a couple thousand views. In the end, it was like 400,000 views. We were on the top page for 2 days. We got a lot of interactions from that. We got a lot of pledges from that, and I couldn't have anticipated that. Like it's just a luck, I guess. And then I thought, you know, what if I make a second post, pretending everyone asked for more gameplay GIFs? And again, like 300,000 views and upvotes, and everyone was just liking it. And it's very brief, right? You know, only for 2 days you're being on the viral page, and then you're gone. But still, it was a lot of interaction and minimal effort, basically. So, yeah.
But you're telling me there you did some research at first.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
to post
yeah.
things. So it's not completely random.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not a fan of the word luck. I think in the end you can always check out anything and research anything. What I mean with luck is the amount of effort that I put in some other tries, like the getting some press, for example. I also wrote that down. Compared to this was lucky, as in it blew up as we hoped, but we couldn't really predict. So, yeah.
So you're saying the press that wasn't really
yeah.
writing about you?
Yeah, that was the big setback. Everyone said it would be hard to get some press for your Kickstarter, because on Kickstarter, the idea of Kickstarter is your game isn't there yet. And for the full month, your game still isn't there yet. Well, if you blow up in 2 days, then sure. But for us, we got the goal 5 days in advance. And before that, and even after that, I couldn't for the life of me to get any press to write about us. And some websites, I know they have a very strict rule of not writing about Kickstarter games, because they go wrong that often. Sometimes they don't get made, sometimes they don't make the goal in the end. So they don't want to scatter their website with possible games, basically, which makes sense, I guess. But I wrote journalists that I talked to on conferences and on that wrote articles about us before, and nobody, not a single person was interested in writing about Pine. And we got Eurogamer Italy, I think, that was the height of our success. But that was for a demo I sent him like 5 months ago, and he didn't even mention the Kickstarter. So I still don't really have good tips on how to actually get press, because around us, some campaigns were having tons of press without doing any effort, like, oh, we were lucky, and then Kotaku writes about them, and they blow up, etc. In the end, I'm pretty happy with it. I know it sounds stupid, because, you know, I just couldn't get press. But this does mean that the game didn't blow up on Kickstarter, that it didn't go above what we can actually deliver. Because if we would have gotten, I don't know, like Lost Ember did last year, they got 320%, 320,000 euros. The expectations for the game are super high, and everywhere they post now, it's like, ooh, where's the game, guys? You know, it's a lot bigger than they could handle, because it's still a 6-man team like us. So this is kind of a nice.
Because they pledge for like, I don't know,
320, yeah.
And they get like 3 times the amount.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to make 3 times a bigger game, right?
Yeah, that's called the stretch goals, and basically you say, what if we make double the amount, or what if we make triple the amount? We also have stretch goals. We made one of them. In the end, we got 121,000.
Should we take a look at your?
Yeah, sure. Yeah? Go ahead.
So, where should I look for the stretch goals?
Just below, I think you had some quotes here, but these were all quotes from way before the Kickstarter, and like I couldn't get any new ones. Here are the add-ons, which is basically anyone can add any reward for a certain amount of money. And then I think I moved them down because we were just about nearing the first stretch goal, and we thought if we just hit just below that, it means less work for us. But they just tipped us over the edge, and we got 121,000, and the stretch goal was 120,000, which means we were promising to make sort of an arena mode in the game. It's sort of minimal effort for us, but yeah, there it is. Smashed it. It's hard to read, but it's arena mode, and then at 140,000 we would have made some sort of a DLC pack for a species in the game, so that you can play as a species. A lot of people were excited for that, but not everyone, so they didn't make that one. But yeah, the arena mode, we're gonna have to put an arena in the game now. Basically, these are the things you promised for people to get motivated to pledge even more and up their pledge. And in the end, it works. I mean, we were at 115K, I think, 1 hour before the end, and then it's like, oh, we were almost there, and everyone ups their pledge with like $5, and if that's 4,000 people doing that, then you hit the stretch goal, and yeah.
So you need to be careful by setting your stretch goals then.
Definitely, and some campaigns, they launched the campaign with the stretch goals, like 10 of them, up until like 1 million, we do this and this. But usually they say wait for the campaign to go so that you know where to put the stretch goals.
You had a question?
So how many people up their pledge to reach the stretch goal? Because I've seen recently, and not necessarily in games, but that some simply have, some games or some Kickstarter projects have almost no stretch goals or very limited stretch goals, exactly to kind of avoid this problem that you just described, where you overstretch your company, as it were. So how many people upped their pledge in your case, for instance, to reach the 120,000?
That's a good question. It's hard to say. Like the last hours are always, everything comes in from all sides, and you just do what you can to save the ship, basically. I have no idea what the real numbers are, but there's a few instances in this campaign. So like a week in advance, it's like, we're never going to make it. That's what all the backers say. And we're like, calm down. There's still a week. And then, people already start upping their pledge for just a normal goal in our case. So I guess if your campaign is made in 3 days, then everyone will, well, I guess then nobody will up their pledge because you already made the goal and you will get a lot of new backers. It's not that much, I think. Basically, when the 100,000 was met, then everybody's a bit silent for a bit, like, we did it, it's fine. And then a few days in advance, like, hey, maybe we can reach a stretch goal, and then people start upping their pledge. So I don't really know the numbers, but yeah, it was enough apparently to get to the stretch goal.
Are the people who are extra opting for the stretch goal also people already pledged? New people?
Well, the new people, they just want the game.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who pledged in the first days, they're really invested in your campaign. And they're really excited to see the stretch goals. But the new ones are usually like, I don't care. I just want this game. It's going to be made anyway. And then the stretch goals are, people in the comments saying, we're almost there. It's always you always use we, and that's such a strong thing. Like the community you're building there, you can even leave your hands, and they will do their own thing and start their own campaigns and posts on Reddit and anywhere. And it's crazy. But I think, the people most invested in the campaign are going for those stretch goals,
That's a question by Roel.
Yeah, I was thinking about how do you define stretch goals, because you started with 150, and then you narrowed it down to 120. But do you account for the hours you have to put in?
Right, yeah.
So how do you define the stretch goals?
How do you define them? Well, first you think of some content that people will be excited about to back, right? And for us in arena mode, some people have been asking, like, is there a combat thing where I can do only combat because that's what I'm interested in? And the arena mode for us was pretty easy because the early demos that we made already had an arena, so we knew how to set it up. Basically, the stretch goals are an extra reward on top of extra money. It's not that we value this arena mode for 20,000, even though the backers do see it as such. So they think the arena mode is 20,000, For us, it's like it will probably be 2,000 to make, but it's an extra reward people get for backing over the limit. I think some companies actually, they use the stretch goal fully as the budget for something new. In case of, for example, our next stretch goal, our third one would have been orchestrated soundtrack. So we really, we checked with some companies how much that would be. We estimated some costs. It was like 25,000, I think, for the whole package. Then I wouldn't have actually put that on, 25,000 on top of that. But for the first two, it was more of a, let's try to get there, and you get this as an extra reward. So
I'm not sure what the percentage is of projects that reach their first goal. Probably pretty low.
yeah, it's the
Is that question?
No, well, that's first part, because then the next part is, what would you have done if you did not reach your goal?
So what would you have done if you didn't reach the goal?
then we would have backed up. For us, this was all or nothing. Like the money, we were out of money, but there was a lot of interest in Pine, more than we anticipated first. So we thought this Kickstarter is, for us, it's a real yes or no for a company. And what you do here is that if you go for 100,000, we would have made, I don't know, 80,000. For some publishers, 80,000 is already a lot for just selling your vision. So they usually take on these companies like, okay, maybe do another Kickstarter for 40,000 and then we'll take you on for the rest, something like that. So there's a lot of options and things that could have happened after a Kickstarter, but luckily we will never find out, but yeah.
You talk a lot about vision behind the game that you're trying to sell.
Yeah,
Can you shed a little bit light on your vision as
on the vision.
a company or as
Yeah, we always like to make entertainment games, like purely entertainment games, that has some layer of depth in its mechanics or in its core, or in its story or world or something like that. So the first mobile game that we did is just a simple puzzle mobile game, but it's based on Greek mythology, and we had this whole mythology side branch basically thought out.
Tales, right?
With the Wind, it's called.
With the
Yeah,
Wind,
With the Wind, yeah. But this game, we wanted to use adapting AI, so neural network AI, and put that in a purely entertainment game and see what value it could add. And during our graduation, we got the chance to research all of that because it's a pretty long stretch, and we did some prototyping. And I did, research on the design. What happens to the design if it constantly changes, and how do you communicate that to players? And when we had something running that actually worked and got people excited, like, hey, now he's doing this instead of that, we thought, okay, that should be the vision of this game. It's all about adaptation, but it's all in this very entertaining world that we want to put out there.
Adaptation in the entertainment.
Exactly, yeah. Because adaptation is always used in calculation and big data environments, especially neural networks. But we wanted to see, what if we put neural networks in Zelda, basically. That was the first thought we had. So, yeah.
Who should not take this project to Kickstarter?
Who shouldn't?
Yeah, who should?
What do you mean, who?
Well, I come from the board game industry,
Mm-hmm.
and there's always, I would say, 80% of the games shown on Kickstarter are similar types of games.
Yeah.
And it's not casual games that are shown.
No, never.
No.
Mobile games also don't work.
But still now, there are quite a few board games.
A lot, yeah. They're super popular on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
People love...
Do you think it's changing? What kind of games are shown?
I think Kickstarter's... Oh, yeah, sorry.
Because otherwise people come.
Yeah.
So your question is, are there other kinds of games? Board
Yeah.
games?
So what do
Is-
you feel would be a good game to do via Kickstarter?
Okay, so what would be a good game to do a Kickstarter?
I-
Is it really about the game, or is it more about the vision and how you portray it?
Yeah, it's a big part is psychology. I think you can kickstart any game with just a good campaign that hits the boxes, which is pretty bad actually, but that's, I think, how it works, because some games you think, how in God's name did they get funded? And some you think, why is this not funded yet? But then it's just a bad campaign or a bad explanation of a game. Board games are really popular in Kickstarter because people on Kickstarter love physical stuff. They love getting shipped things that they can touch, basically. That's how easy it is. So if you have a game campaign and you can promise a physical copy of your game, boom, you're there. which is pretty hard because it's pretty expensive. And board games, they tend to just shoot over their goal in a few days if they're well presented, because people love to get the board game and actually play with it physically. I think Kickstarter is changing a lot, and that's definitely a sort of fatigue that's going around it because of games that fail to deliver on their promises. You know, Mighty Number 9 is one that got 3.2 million and delivered a game as if it was a student prototype. Ukulele also didn't get the reviews it kind of promised, and a lot of people are still having issues getting the game, the 70,000 backers that it had. And that's also the reason why it's hard to get press. People are just getting tired of Kickstarter games not doing what they should be doing. And we got a lot of that as well. Let's say comments, people pledging $1 because then you can comment, right? And then saying, yeah, you'll never make this. It's another Kickstarter game. And then they retract their pledge, but the comment is there. It happens a lot, and I can understand the fatigue. I mean, people have been burned a few too many times, but I think board games are still very solid on Kickstarter.
What happens if you won't be able to deliver?
Nothing. And that's also a reason why we wanted to go with Kickstarter. There's nothing legally happening with us if we can't deliver or we don't give what we promised. Of course, we have every intention to, but it's only a moral obligation you have. So we wouldn't be like personally accountable if we didn't deliver. A few months ago, there was a Canadian guy, he got 320,000 on Kickstarter, and then he built a house and he ran, and he was gone. And he had to make a sorry video, in Canadian style, of course, from the people of his company, but there was nothing to be done. The money was gone, no product was delivered, so.
Are the people that pledge on Kickstarter different than the users you build it for?
Are the people on Kickstarter different than your end targeted audience? Or?
I do think so. For a small bit, I think in the US it's really a hobby to just crowdfund. So anyone does crowdfunding. So they get an email saying, "Hey, Pine is a new game." They might not even care about games, but they pledge for it. And that doesn't mean they would have bought Pine in the stores if they saw it there. But that was kind of our goal, to get everyone who recognizes this as a game, who should be, that should be a big group. They would pledge for Pine if they see it. Even if they're not super interested in playing it, it should target the senses that you think, hey, this is a game, it's colorful, it's fun, you can run around. That's what I did as a kid or something. So that broad audience, I'm not sure if it's not our target audience, but it's the audience that might buy Pine if they see it somewhere in the shelves. So.
Is there like a sense to be part of the pledge, or?
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. The backer morale is one of the more important resources in the campaign. Making sure that the people who already pledge are excited about your campaign and they want to share it around and they want to make sure you're going to make it. And then on the other hand, you have getting people to come in because they want to be part of your project. They want to have built the project. That's why they constantly use we did it, and then we're like, yeah, sure, you did it. And all the updates are like, yeah, we always use you did it. You guys are the best, not we did it or we're the best, but the backers did it, all of them together. So 4,000 people combined made this project happen, and that's the sense you need to really target if you talk to them, because they love that. And in the US, it's way bigger than it is here at this point. But over there, it's just, I don't play games, but here, have $19 because it looks cool and you guys want to make something.
Well, your game didn't just look cool, you made a lot of trailers to sort of portray your message and your vision for the game. Shall we go through it?
Sure,
Can you talk about what we're seeing?
Yeah. Yeah, so because we didn't have a demo, it was really important that this trailer was going to be probably the only thing people were going to see. A lot of people, because on Kickstarter you get roughly like 1 million page views in a month, and that's a lot of people, so they need to see something that, completely captures your vision. In the end, I'm not sure if it even worked, but we wanted to work on that trailer and just iterate on it based on that vision we had. So we made one version every week. Yeah, just play it. You'll see how weird that was to do. Importantly, though, it didn't mean that we wanted to fake the trailer. But the reason it took us weeks and weeks to get that trailer going, as you can see pretty much nothing here, but the camera movements were there, and we knew, sort of the storyboard that we were going for. It's beautiful snow. But the idea was that we would continue development during the Kickstarter, so as the team was working on the features and the content of the game, we would put that into the trailer more and more, so that basically you build up a more complete trailer every week. But never fake these shots, but actually work on the mechanics and then put them in the trailer. That was really important, because otherwise you're behind like 8 months in development, and then you're screwed if the Kickstarter is done. So this doesn't probably mean anything for anyone, but we had a storyboard going, and we knew exactly what we needed to do. And still, a lot of things changed. Some shots we knew we were never going to be able to make, or we just scrapped them. Epic end shot there.
This was the actual trailer for the Kickstarter?
No. This is the first version. This is 16 weeks before the Kickstarter. And then every week we would add in new content that we were making on the development side. Beautiful end shot. Yeah, now maybe you can show a part of like trailer 4 or...
I think it's up next.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it should be, I think.
This one, right?
Yeah.
No, this is one.
Oh yeah, V4, sorry. Yeah, this is an SFK. I don't know what that is. But. So this is 3 weeks later. Start working with some sounds. Still had that ocean intro going. Placed some trees. And we wanted to be very honest about the state of the trailer, so that you always know what you're gonna get and where you're at with the game. So I think this one, oh no, this is okay. We had a version where all the species were suddenly like completely going mental, breakdancing. All the rigs broke, and I don't know what happened. And this already showed a bit more of the vision for the trailer we had. We needed to follow one of these species into a camp, and then introduce the main character, and then let them play together, etc. And here we use some old Pine music. That was one of the hardest parts, not having the music. So you're editing on nothing, but if the music comes first, you're already stuck to this editing rhythm that you might not want to stick to for the end. So that was constantly balancing, like, do we want audio, do we not want audio? Because without audio, you can't really see how the trailer will be. It will always be a bit boring. That guy's doing nothing. But yeah, that's one of the development things. Like, we were working on him, we had the textures ready, but we needed some behavior. But yeah, when is it coming in? We don't know, but let's make the trailer. And then you just put him in the trailer and he does nothing. But then at least you know exactly what needs to be done. Glitches. All about.
This is not my beamer.
No, it's not your beamer. It's the actual vendor. But yeah, we wanted to be honest, March 7 was the date here. We had some end posters going. And maybe you can show version 11. It's pretty close to.
So these trailers, you published them?
No, we never published them. I was working on an evolution of the trailer video, showing this process. But we were scared that a lot of backers would think we faked a lot of the trailer. Because it does look like that, because, it just looks like adding content to shots. But what we did in the background is, we kept on developing, and the state of development was constantly reflected in the trailers. But we were scared that it looked like we just only worked on the trailer and we didn't have a game yet. So that was kind of a scary thing. I almost published a video, like showing the process, because we did that last year and it was a really popular video. Everyone liked to see how something grows like this, but that was a gameplay video, and it's kind of a touchy subject. Like, do people think we faked everything or actually made it? A lot of lighting issues and a lot of animation still missing. And there's like a music prototype we had, so still a lot of set dressing, trees snapping. This guy's moving now, that's good, but here at least we could see, where it was going. It was pretty tough because this is week 11, so for 10 weeks we had kind of been looking at some static stuff that didn't move, and it was kind of demotivating sometimes as well, shooting nothing. It's also motivating to see things get filled in, and some shots are like, this is going somewhere, this is going to be cool. You know, trying to nail the timing a little bit. Flying, also important. But yeah, a lot of lighting issues, and then week by week you get better and better, and then the final one is, is what
It's the final one.
That's the final one. For the audio guys, it was hard to see, you know, what they were gonna have to make without a trailer. But yeah, so we worked together, like towards each other, basically. Yeah. So yeah, for us it was fun to see that development, especially looking at the old videos now. But yeah, that's how we decided to build this, so that we could think about the exact vision that we were giving, because it was the only thing we had for the Kickstarter, and could iterate on that every week, basically. Yeah.
Great. Any remarks before we close this down?
Very good.
Thank you.
So you wrote down some general lessons.
Yes.
That you took away from doing this whole Kickstarter. One is that you say you need to stick to the statistics.
There are some crazy statistics. For example, if your campaign reaches 60% of the goal, there's a 98% chance you'll make it. But if you don't get 20% within the first 4 days, then you're out. So it's within the first days, it's basically yes or no. And within the first 2 days, we had roughly 30%, which is one of those milestones that if you make that, there's everything, I guess. Yeah.
I have one last question.
Yes.
Like, what group is like the best to focus on during your Kickstarter campaign? Who pledged like the most money? Is there a specific group?
Americans.
Americans.
Yes,
Just
definitely.
We all love
Yeah.
the Americans.
Yeah. No, it's a hobby there, and it's also dangerous with time zones. We were always asleep and they were waking up, so we had to prepare everything overnight and schedule tweets in the night, etc. But definitely Americans.
Okay, so with that last comment on the lovely Americans,
Yes.
I'd like to close off, and
Yeah.
I'd like to thank you so much for
No problem.
sharing and be so open to us
No problem.
about this campaign. Thank you.
My pleasure.
So this was our first ever recorded Q&A session.
I feel honored.
And thank you for being
No
here.
problem. I hope the recording went well.
Yeah, I hope so too.